The libtards are going to
We're here.
Hell.
It's all different colors, genders, races here. We stand in unison. Trump 2024, baby. We stand. Let's go. Yo, they've been blowing that whistle for. Listen to me. But there's not one American flag. Excuse me, brother. There's not one American flag hanging over there. Not one American flag hanging over there. Not one American flag hanging over there. Not one. Not one. Not one American flag hanging at all.
That's a great point. That's an excellent point.
Exactly. So how are they liberal? How are they supporting our country? They're not. They're supporting themselves. That's all they're supporting. They're just here because they hate Donald Trump. It's the wrong reason to be here.
I don't know why they're against Trump. Like I said, Trump did so much for this community, and it's crazy. As far as the black community, he helped financially. The employment went up, and far as the stimulus checks. So I don't understand. And then you're from America, you're from this land. How can you hate this land that you're from?
And not even hold up an American flag.
This government is the best government. We cannot argue. It's not like China where you're working for 5 cents. It's not like where you're in Africa getting beat with sticks. This country loves its people, and we should back its government, not try to tear it down like these criminals are trying to do.
I think it's a great point. Where's the American flag over there? Where's the love for this country? They have a lot of hate.
All right, guys. So we got to talk about the big news of the day, which is Trump's indictment and arrest, okay, in which Trump has showed up to Manhattan, to court, for his first kind of hearing on this case that has been brought against him by woke DA Alvin Bragg, okay, who's known for dropping felonies to misdemeanors and letting off violent criminals. But for whatever reason, he decided to be tough on crime when it came to Trump, okay, as he basically has brought 34 felony counts against Trump, counts that Trump has pleaded not guilty to.
The defendant claimed that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. This simply was not true. And it was a false statement that the defendant made month after month in 2017. April, May, June, and so on through the rest of the year. For 9 straight months, the defendant held documents in his hand containing this key lie, that he was paying Michael Cohen for legal services performed in 2017. And he personally signed checks for payments to Michael Cohen for each of these 9 months. In total, the grand jury found there were 34 documents with this critical false statement. Why did Donald Trump repeatedly make these false statements? The evidence will show that he did so to cover up crimes relating to the 2016 election. Donald Trump, executives at the publishing company American Media Incorporated, Mr. Cohen, and others agreed in 2015 to a catch and kill scheme. That is, a scheme to buy and suppress negative information to help Mr. Trump's chance of winning the election. As part of this scheme, Donald Trump and others made 3 payments to people who claimed to have negative information about Mr. Trump.
Yeah, so I want y'all to understand. This guy, Fat Alvin, right, that's what I'm going to call him from now on, Fat Alvin, decided to bring these charges against Trump, despite the fact that his predecessor chose not to, and federal prosecutors chose not to, and he was actually confronted on that during a press conference, and here's his answer.
Hi, Mr. DA, you had expressed a year ago that you had some reservations about the case's readiness. Can you talk to us about what were some of the questions in your mind that needed to be answered in order to bring a case of this magnitude?
I'm not going to go chapter and verse into any thinking. What I will say is, I believe the time period you're talking about, I'd been in office for a couple of months. The investigation, in my view, was not concluded into the conduct in particular that is the basis for the charges today. Since that time, we've had more evidence made available to the office and an opportunity to meet with additional witnesses. So as I said earlier, I've been doing this for 24 years. I don't bring cases prior to a thorough and rigorous investigation. Now, having done so, the case has been brought.
Mr. Bragg, Garrett Hake with NBC News. Your predecessor took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Federal prosecutors took a hard look at this case and decided not to charge it. Do you believe you have new evidence that led you to decide to charge this, or why now?
Well, as I just mentioned, we have had available to the office additional evidence that was not in the office's possession prior to my time here. And as to your part of your question about the federal, we have a distinct and strong, I would say profound, independent interest in New York State. This is the business capital of the world. We regularly do cases involving false business statements. The bedrock, in fact, the basis for business integrity and a well-functioning business marketplace is true and accurate record keeping. That's the charge that's brought here, falsifying New York State business records.
Now, of course, the mainstream liberal media is going crazy over this because this is the masturbation material that they've been looking for, that they've dreamed of for years, right? To see Trump facing criminal charges. I mean, just look at CNN's riveting coverage here of Trump's indictment. Take a look.
From and where are they going to? Are they going to the courtroom?
They're going in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the door that the president, Karen, that's the door the former president is likely to come through, and the courtroom is immediately to the left?
So there are many doors into the courtroom, and it's not just this one door. There are side doors and there's a back door.
You're not just speaking metaphorically.
So there are many doors in the courtroom and many hallways that lead to each door depending on where someone's coming from. A judge comes in a different door, a jury comes in even another door, a defendant who's incarcerated comes in a different door, the public comes in the main door. So there are many doors to choose from depending on, for security reasons, which way they decided Mr. Trump should go.
Yeah, groundbreaking analysis right there from CNN, right? They're analyzing how many doors are in the courthouse and which one Trump might walk through. Again, groundbreaking stuff from CNN. So let's check in on the White House and their response to Trump's indictment and showing up to Manhattan today as Peter Doocy, once again, is the MVP, asking the questions that the Democrats should strongly consider when it comes to this political football game in regards to, does it set a precedent when it comes to a former president being able to just be indicted by a DA that they disagree with politically? Like, for example, that could happen to Joe Biden since Democrats are setting the precedent for this. Take a look.
Biden is a lawyer. Is he
and the President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief, but go ahead.
He is, but as a lawyer, is he concerned at all that a local DA indicting a former president could, down the line, open up the possibility, set the precedent, that local DAs that don't like former President Biden could indict him?
I'm not going to comment from here.
Why don't you have more to say about the Trump indictment?
It is an ongoing case, and I've been very clear about that. We've been prudent about that, not commenting on ongoing cases, and we're going to stick to that.
But for
Peter?
better or worse, all that anybody in the country is talking about at this exact moment while we're in here is Trump. And they look here to find out what the White House thinks about it. And
well, I think the American people should feel reassured that when there is an ongoing case like this one, that we're just not commenting.
And so, does the lack of comment mean that you do not think anything happening in New York today is one of the top issues facing the country at the moment?
That's your assessment. That's not my assessment. I'm just laying out the facts that we are just not going to comment on an ongoing case from here. And we've been very consistent, we've been very prudent, and we're going to stick there.
Yeah, so of course the White House has nothing to say about this. They're silent, but we know behind closed doors they're secretly celebrating because the Democrat plan is to have Trump win Republican primaries, which looks like that's working because Trump's poll numbers have shot up tremendously after this indictment, and then have him face Biden in the general election because they believe that Trump is easier to beat than somebody like DeSantis for Biden. Now, we know that these charges are bogus, okay? And we know that that's what's happening, that this is really a psyop to, again, one, get Trump to the general election, and two, to try to potentially get violence out of Trump supporters, because even CNN is saying that these 34 felony counts of falsifying business records is bogus. Okay, I want you guys to watch how this panel at CNN is silent as some panelists, some analysts on CNN, including John Bolton, who is an anti-Trumper, basically destroy Alvin Bragg's case against Trump. Again, you know it's bad when they're airing this on CNN. Take a look.
Here.
Ellie?
The core conduct that is charged in this indictment is the payment of hush money. Now, payment of hush money is not a crime. It's not a federal crime. It's not a state crime. So how did they get here to state charges? They're relying on a state law that makes it, in the first instance, a misdemeanor to falsify business records. These are the repayments to Michael Cohen that were falsely logged within the Trump organization as legal fees when they were not legal fees. One of the complicated legal questions here is, in order to bump that up from a misdemeanor to a felony, you have to show that those records were falsified to commit some other crime, some second crime. Now, the indictment does not specify what that second crime is. You heard the defense lawyers, I think rightly, complaining about that. The whole purpose of an indictment is to serve notice on the defendant of what exactly you're charged with and what exactly you're going to be defending yourself against. Now, D.A. Bragg, again, who is a former colleague of mine, just clarified that a bit. He said federal campaign laws, there's going to be a legal question there. He said state campaign laws. I'm not sure how violations related to a presidential election would count as state campaign laws. There may be some creative argument there. And he did say in passing, and it's mentioned one time in the statement of facts, tax fraud. Now, there's no indication that they actually claimed a deduction. In fact, I believe they did not claim a deduction on this. But perhaps the theory is this was the plan. In terms of the evidence, it is clear that Michael Cohen is the star witness. He is referred to over and over again in the statement of facts. He is quoted at length in the statement of facts from during his prior prosecution federally.
Case may be or may not be. Your reaction now that you've had a chance to go through it, is it what you thought it was going to be, and are you unimpressed?
It is what I thought it was going to be in terms of focusing on the payments that were made, the falsification of the records, and really tied to the payment that was made to Stormy Daniels. In terms of a case that's being brought against a former president, it's a little underwhelming. There's not more to it. There's not more violations, tax violations. There's not an incredible new set of facts that we didn't know about publicly. It's really the facts of this case as they have existed for basically almost 7 years.
And for you, one big picture, what do you think of the indictment?
Well, speaking as someone who very strongly does not want Donald Trump to get the Republican presidential nomination, I'm extraordinarily distressed by this document. I think this is even weaker than I feared it would be. And I think it's easily subject to being dismissed or a quick acquittal for Trump. Just speaking, going back to the days when I represented Jim Buckley and Gene McCarthy and the constitutional challenge to the underlying federal statute here passed in 1974, I can say there is no basis in the statutory language to say that Trump's behavior forms either a contribution or an expenditure under federal law, the two key definitions at issue here. If it did, it would mean that every single expenditure a candidate made could be taken to have something to do with his campaign. Do I buy a $1 comb to comb my hair or a $10 comb to comb my hair? If you can construe the statute to cover this behavior, then I think it violates the First Amendment because you're deeply into territory that makes this statute absolutely, the federal statute, too vague for enforcement. And as what I understood the district attorney to say that he thinks there's a New York election law involved here, all I can say is the Federal Election Campaign Act absolutely preempts any state or local law to the contrary. How could it be otherwise? You've got one law governing corporate finance in a presidential election at the federal level. You're going to have 50 state laws interfering with it. So he's just wrong on the applicability of the New York statute.
Yeah, so you know the case is weak when you've lost the CNN panel, right? When CNN is like, we're not really feeling this. We don't really know if this is a strong case here. You know it's weak, okay? And again, I think that this is going to backfire on the Democrats. Trump's going to beat this, okay, in my opinion. And I think that ultimately what will happen is that Trump is going to get a bump in the primary. I mean, basically at this point, it's going to be really hard to imagine anybody beating Trump in the primary. And who knows? Again, it could backfire in the general as well, too, because it could turn off a lot of independents who clearly are saying that this is a political stunt from the left to try to jail their political opponents. Again, Democrats are getting into some very, 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 sketchy waters here in regards to political tactics. They're basically open to do anything. They're willing to do anything, okay? We're already seeing that they do violence and destruction when they don't get their way. Now they moved on to arresting their political opponents. Again, there's not one level that the Democrats won't stoop to in order to gain power and control. And again, this is why you need strong Republicans. You need strong Republicans to make the pendulum swing the other way and to give the Democrats a taste of their own medicine, right? Which is why, Republicans, at some point, somebody should bring some charges against Hunter Biden, right? Or Joe Biden or something, okay? Teach the Democrats, you do this to us, we're going to do this to you. But regardless, I think Trump's going to beat it. I'm not too worried about this. This is more of a show, more so than anything, to be quite honest with you. It's a political stunt. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.